The trade deadline. What did the teams do and how do I think they did? Well, a couple caveats for how we're gonna do this rating, because about 1,000 players traded hands, most of which nobody knows much about because a lot of them have no track record in professional baseball anyways, but there's a lot of prospects. In order to do research enough for me and my two producers, there's gonna be a lot. So how we're gonna look at this is how much better did your team get this year in order to make a playoff push? How much better did the big league team get? So I tried to factor in some caveats like when we know that a prospect is good, or there's guys that are just there and gonna have an effect right away, but maybe not this year. I give them a little bit of credit. So keep that in mind when I do these ratings, okay? I wanted to focus very heavily on, is this team better now in the big leagues? Is their chances of making the playoffs higher, not only making the playoffs, making a run, higher than it was before they made the trades? We're gonna focus really heavily on that, and then maybe this time next year, we can do a check-in on the prospects and where they're at, and how those things are paying out too. We will do that. We just need to see that kind of start to shake out a little bit more before we know the answers to those questions. And I'm not gonna predict that stuff because I don't know how and it's too much work.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
Okay, so in this context, a C is, they're the same they were. Below that is worse, above that is better. Let's get into it, starting with the AL East. Number 1, Toronto Blue Jays, and I'm gonna rattle these names off, so get ready. Shane Bieber, Brandon Valenzuela, God, this is gonna be fun. Sir Anthony Dominguez for Cal Steven, Will Wagner, and Jerron Watts-Brown. The real pickup here is Shane Bieber, and I think that his ceiling is very high and he could be a big part of this, but we don't know yet till he gets there. So I give them a B+. Why do I give them a B+? I am really high on Shane Bieber, and I think they did what they needed to do. Though they didn't do a lot, they did some. All right, moving on. We got the New York Yankees. Lots of movement. Now, we know how they've been playing lately, but again, small sample size. They got David Bednar, Ryan McMahon, Camilo Doval, Jose Caballero, Wilberson De Pena, Jake Bird, and Ahmed Rosario. Jake Bird has now been sent down to the minor leagues. For Rafael Flores, Edwin Perez, Brian Sanchez, there's a lot. Josh Groban, that's not what that says. There is a lot. Jesus Rodriguez, Parks Harbor, that's a great name. Carlos De La Rosa, Everson Pire, Oswaldo Peraza, Rock Reggio, Ben Shields, Carlos Carrasco, Clayton Beater, and Brown Martinez. That's a lot. That's a lot of players, but we're focused on what they got for the big leagues, and what they got for the big leagues makes them much better. Now, I know it hasn't worked out yet. I know it hasn't, but I also said when these guys were traded that there was going to be a little bit of a learning curve because they're coming from Colorado and from Pittsburgh. They've never played in any, and San Francisco, honestly. Like, even Camilo Doval hasn't really pitched in the playoffs, like in that market like that. So the guys they got are not used to pitching for the Yankees. There is a learning curve there, though I do believe that they have the ability to make that adjustment, and of course it's going to take a little time, and it just looks so bad because Yankees fans and everyone's freaking out about the Yankees, and they are playing very bad, and I totally get it. I think that on paper, they got everyone they could have possibly gotten that was available to make them better. They did all the moves. Now, if those moves don't work out, you have to do the moves first, and I give them an A on the moves. Red Sox, they added Dustin May and Steven Matz, and they lost James Tibbs, Zach Earhart, and Blaze Jordan. Blaze is a sick name, I gotta be honest. Dustin May, Steven Matz. Steven Matz has been up and out of the pen. Dustin May was kind of the odd man out of the rotation. They really needed a front-end starter. They did not get a front-end starter. I don't think they got any better. And I'm adding, this is probably a C. I think they're a C, but I'm gonna give them a D because of the nature of their team, the resources they have, and the things they should be able to get done, and where they are positioned as well, there was a D. But that said, they didn't make their team better, but their team was already really good, and we're seeing that right now. They're playing great. So maybe this doesn't matter, and there's a chance that these ratings don't matter. So just keep that in mind. But there was one glaring thing: front end starter, middle starter. We really want that, and they just didn't do it. And that, if they didn't say that and didn't do it, see, if they did nothing, they would have gotten a C. And just by doing what they did and missing the things they need to do, it takes them down a little bit. All right, Tampa Bay Rays doing a bunch of lateral moves. They got Griffin Jacks, Fiducia, Van Bell, Everson Pierre, Adrian Hauser, Nick Fortes, and Yoder Arianamo. I need to stop trying to say these. James Tibbs. Okay, I messed something up. One of these two teams have these three guys, so I might have messed that up. I apologize. But we're not focused on the leaving. We're focused on the adding anyways. This is awkward. I'm so sorry. Griffin Jacks, huge pickup. Huge pickup, and I believe they have another year on him. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get him to start. I also like Nick Fortes as a backup catcher. They're very good at, he's a good catcher. Doesn't really hit much, and Adrian Hauser won't make him better. So I think they might be a little bit better because they didn't lose a lot. B-. Moving on, Baltimore Orioles. I'll let you read those. Those are almost all prospects with the exception of Dietrich Enns, who is a big league player. And they lost Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano, Cedric Mullins, Charlie Morton, Andrew Kittredge, Ramon Urias, Sir Anthony Minguez, and Gregory Soto. We are talking a lot about the Twins. These guys got rid of 9 players in the big leagues. 9 guys left for a lot of prospects. Now, if we're talking just prospects, could be good. Is it good for right now and playing better now, though? Absolutely not. Their team literally lost just 9 big league players. You have to get an F trade deadline in terms of getting better this year. They're not getting better this year, but in their defense, that wasn't the goal. Still an F. You just weren't taking the same test as everybody else. Let's just put it that way. All right, let's move on to the Central. Detroit Tigers, first place in the Central. They added Charlie Morton, threw great on Sunday. Watched it. Kyle Finnegan, a solid bullpen piece. Paul Sewald has been a solid bullpen piece. There's Cody Hauer in here, Rafael Montero, who's been hurt, Chris Paddock, who also threw well, and Twins legend Randy Dobnak, and they sent out a bunch of prospects. Do I think the Detroit Tigers got a little bit better? Sure, I do. And especially with how Charlie Morton and Chris Paddock threw in their first starts, I think they did a good job. So it's panned out a little bit. They needed depth. They went and got depth pieces. They added some guys who have a history of some swing and miss in the bullpen, which is something they've struggled with this year. So I do like some of these moves, even though some of them are just they're a little bit underwhelming in general. So they got a little bit better. I think they did a good job with depth pieces, but it's remained to be seen. If you really want Chris Paddock and Charlie Morton to go carry you, they're probably not going to. But I will say, I did make this rating before I watched Charlie Morton throw as well as he did on Sunday. So they lost Sewald and Bieber, and they got Stephan. They get a little bit of a boost from getting something for Bieber before he even pitched, but he never pitched for their team, and Paul Sherwold was also hurt for most times. So they got a little bit worse. And the big thing with the Colossae thing, which isn't their fault, really hurt their ability to do the trade deadline, because I think they would have had a great trade deadline had they been able to get rid of him. But they obviously can't, and now his locker has nothing in it, which is concerning. But we talked about it last week. I'm not going to get into that. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Royals. They added Yastrzemski, Burgett, Kolek, Falter, Grichuk, and Adam Frazier. That's a lot of veteran presence. Again, very Detroit-esque, a little bit better. But I was surprised that they got better in this way. They also extended Seth Lugo, that I'm going to add in here and I think is better. And they lost Freddie Fermin, who I think that hurts a little bit, but they did a really good job of swapping spots that they had depth in with spots they didn't, and some veteran guys that if they make a little run, if they sneak into the playoffs, they'll feel comfortable having that. It was good lateral moves. They made themselves slightly better, in my opinion. And I give them a B, give them a little props, because this is stuff they didn't have. They could have done nothing. They could have just sat pat with a C, but I think they made their team just a little bit better with those additions, even though none of them are huge difference makers. And then we got the Twins. Twins fans, super duper sorry that this has to happen. Like we said, you lost everyone on your team and you added tons and tons of prospects, many of which are interesting. But there was a couple that I think even this thing out a little bit more than you think, and I think that you should be excited about. They got Taj Bradley, James Outman, and Mick Abel. Those three guys have had success in the big leagues. And I think especially Mick Abel is a prize in this situation. I like Mick Abel a lot. If he stays healthy, I think that Mackey can do a lot with him. And I think Taj Bradley can make a big adjustment too. Maybe the Twins can get him to think about pitching a little bit differently than the Rays do. Usually that doesn't happen, but maybe. He's electric, he's got good stuff. And then Outman's just been chilling in AAA, hasn't been able to hit enough, but he's lefty stick. He plays a good center fielder. He's good defensively. He could have value for them long term. So there is a little bit of big league talent there. It wasn't all prospects. That said, we're going to give him a C-, only because I love Abel. They are worse now, but they're closer. This is probably a D+, let's be honest. But I'm not going to give them an F. In terms of fans and taking care of your fans, you get a Z. You get a Z. You can't lose half your team because no one wants to watch that. In terms of just watchable product, having an emotional connection to your team and the sale, all that stuff is being handled horribly. But in terms of the team getting way worse, there are some pieces there that I think are going to be valuable to them immediately. Just I'm trying to give you a little drop of hope, okay? Now let's talk about the Chicago White Sox. They got a bunch of prospects and they got rid of Adrian Hauser, Austin Slater, 2 expiring contracts, so they get a little credit for there. But you notice there's no Luis Robert here, and that pisses me off. Trade him. Trade him so I can watch him play for a real team. D+. Why? It's a D. It's a D+. I'm changing my mind in real time. D+. At least they got something for a couple guys that are not going to be on this team next year. And that is a net positive at least. But they are still worse than they were. Moving on to the West. Let's talk about the Houston Astros real quick. Houston Astros, they added Carlos Correa, Jesus Sanchez, and Ramon Urias. I like these picks, especially with the way that their team has gotten hurt. Isaac Paredes is out for the year. He has a horrible hamstring strain, and it might bleed into next year. That's super worrying. They got rid of Mikulski, Gusto, and Twine Palmer. Unfortunately, I think every team should have a guy named Twine in it, but because he holds it together. Okay, sorry about that. So they get a B. They are better. They filled their spots. They got Carlos Correa back. He is the Houston legend. Everyone loves him. That was an exciting deadline for them, and I think their fan base is excited because they get a new guy, and then Jesus Sanchez, I think, could be a sneaky pickup for them. Seattle Mariners. Let's see how they did. Gino Suarez, Josh Naylor, and Caleb Ferguson. The things they needed at the deadline were a third baseman with pop, a first baseman with pop, and a lefty reliever. And they did it. Now, they had to move Tyler Locklear, who was another option at first, but they didn't feel comfortable putting him there this year, so that's probably telling enough. And then some of the prospects, which frankly I don't know a ton about, but they filled in their team exactly the way they needed to. That's exactly what they needed for this deadline, and so I give them an A. Jerry, I apologize for everything I said about you in the past. This was very savvy. You had 3 huge glaring pieces that you needed to get better, and you filled those pieces with arguably the best, at least 2 of the 3, the corner guys, are the best options available at the time. So, thumbs up for there. Moving on to the Rangers. They added Merrill Kelly, Danny Colum, Phil Maton, and Jose Ruiz, the volleyballer, and they got rid of a few prospects, Cody Harrower and Dane Dunning, who had a good run there, but now has moved on. I love the add of the starter to Jacob deGrom and Nate Eovaldi at the front of their rotation. Danny Colum is a great left-handed option in the bullpen, and Phil Maton closed the game the other day and has looked good. These guys have track records, they have playoff experience, and they were good pickups. And the Texas Rangers also get an A. They filled their team up pretty good. They added some depth in the bullpen, which was one of their weaknesses. And we know that when they are right, they can score runs, and they have been scoring more runs lately. Los Angeles Angels, Oswald Peraza, Andrew Chafin and Luis Garcia added, and for 3 prospects, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why they got some big league talent. I don't know what Andrew Chafin and Luis Garcia were supposed to do. I don't really know if this is going for it or not, so I'll just say, you're the same team, but you made some moves. You just gave away some prospects for things that aren't going to really matter this year, probably. So I hope it works out. And finally, we have the redacted Athletics. They added Leo DeVries, number 3 prospect in baseball, some more prospects, and lost Mason Miller, JP Sears, and Kenya Huggins. Are they better now than they were in the big leagues? No. But could Leo DeVries be a big deal? Yes, and we all know about Leo DeVries. So of all prospects, I'm gonna factor him into this thing, and I'm gonna give him a C+. That they get some credit for going to get Leo DeVries. Though this number, long term, if we're factoring in prospects, is probably gonna go up quickly because I think that infield is much better with him. Let's get it. Yo. Okay, now we're gonna get into the NL. It's happening. It's happening. We're doing it. We're doing it right now. We're starting with the New York Mets. They added Gregory Soto. They needed left-handed relievers. Brooks Raley came back, and so did Gregory Soto, and now they have 2. They added Cedric Mullins to help with center field because we've got Jeff McNeil running around out there, and he got a little pop and can do a little damage with the bat as well. I think that was a great pickup. Tyler Rogers is one of the best relievers and has been for the last 4 years. And Ryan Helsley. Again, phenomenal reliever, the closer. Now we have two iconic songs. They're turn off lights for their setup guy and their closer in Edwin Diaz and Ryan Helsley. That's a dominant bullpen. And then you add Reed Garrett, Ryan Stanek, already in there, already doing the job. Fortunately, they lost Jose Butto. He's gone too, and that's the whole thing. Blade Tidwell had to go. I think maybe they overpaid for a couple of these guys, but in terms of getting better or filling in the gaps that you need to fill in this season, well, I think they did a pretty good job of that. Now, there is a little part of me that's like, Blade Tidwell hurts. Blade Tidwell hurts, and Jose Butto hurts too, because he's been doing really well. So I'd say they are better. A C, it means they stayed the same. They are better than they were, but they did have to give up a little bit more to make this thing happen, which is very not David Stern-esque, but I still think they did the things they needed to do. They filled in the holes, the lefty relievers, the back-end guys to really end games, and Cedric Mullins to play great defense and maybe even add some pop as a left-handed stick. I think that those things are all going to make them better. Philadelphia Phillies now in second place. They added Johan Duran, Harrison Bader, and Matt Manning. Harrison Bader they have the worst center field production in the major leagues. Great defensive outfielders, cannot hit. He has been up around 800 OPS, a good right-handed stick. Harrison Bader, I think it was a good pickup. But what they really needed was a guy to finish the dang game because Jordan Romano just wasn't the answer to that question. Now they have Romano, Kerkering, and Strom in addition to Duran. Duran has been good since he's gone. I love those pickups. And in order to do it, they had to ship out McAble, though. So I didn't like that. I like McAble for a lot of reasons. You guys might be wondering, dude, why does he like this guy so much? Just trust me, bro. Trust me. That's what we do on this show. All right? So the Phillies get a B+. They're better. They needed a closer. If they want to win a World Series, they need a closer. And they have one. They needed one so bad, and they got arguably the best one that was out there. I think Duvall, Bednar, and Helsley are a step behind him just this year. He's been a little bit better. So I like that for them. Moving to the Miami Marlins. They picked up Ryan Gusto and Matthew Etzel, and they shipped out not McAble. Those are the wrong guys. Again, the graphic got freaking rendered wrong. Jesus Sanchez, Nick Fortes, so on and so forth. But we're focused on what they got on the team. Miami Marlins are the same team, though they did get a starter. Ryan Gusto is a starter. I think that they're going to live and die by their team. They didn't need to do a bunch, and I think they got some value for Jesus Sanchez moving forward. All right, Atlanta Braves picked up Tyler Kinley, Jim Jarvis, Carlos Carrasco, Eric Fetty, and Dane Dunning. That is a whole lot of weird right there. That is like a, hey, guys, you've been around for a while. You want to come play for the Braves? That's pretty much what we got in this situation. And they got rid of Austin Smith, Rafael Montero, and Jose Ruiz. So Montero was hurt a lot, and they got rid of two relievers, and now they only have Kinley. They just added a lot of age. So a lot of guys off waivers. Carrasco's off waivers. Fetty was off waivers. Fetty's was statistically one of the worst pitchers in the league. I don't think they got better. I just think they just did some stuff. But nothing really moved the needle, and the Braves look like they're severely out of it. They've given up. It's over. Moving on to the Washington Nationals, picked up 1,000 prospects for Kyle Finnegan, Alex Hall, Michael Soroka, Andrew Chafin, Luis Garcia, and Ahmed Rosario, many of which are one-year contracts. So unloading a lot of these guys, interesting with the exception of Alex Hall, who went to the Dodgers. But there's no one in the big leagues, really. I mean, some of these guys might be in the big leagues now. They didn't get any better. They lost like the core of their team, so I don't anticipate them like winning more games as the season goes on. But again, that wasn't the goal. So we're going to see a lot of 4th and 5th place teams in divisions not getting great grades because they didn't participate in the trade deadline in that way, and that makes a lot of sense. So now we're on to the Milwaukee Brewers. They added Brandon Lockridge, Shelby Miller into the bullpen, Jordan Montgomery, and Danny Jensen to help behind the plate. Now, I think Shelby Miller and Danny Jensen are the big pieces here. They added some depth. I will also throw Vaughn in here. And Andrew Vaughn, he's been huge, even though he was traded for in June. I think that he should be added as one of the smart, savvy moves. So that might actually take this rating up because I didn't have that in mind. And they lost a couple other guys. Nestor Cortez is gone. They're about the same team. I would say they're a B- now with Vaughn. Factoring Vaughn, he adds a lot. He's been great. He's a great pickup. But they really like their core. They really like the group they have. They think they can go far. And by all accounts, they've been doing it. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's what they're doing. And I'm okay with this. Chicago Cubs, another team that needed to do a lot of stuff. They picked up utility guy Willie Castro, big fan of Willie. He took me deep once. Taylor Rogers, the left-handed Rogers twin. Michael Soroka and Andrew Kittredge, who was another guy who threw back-end meaningful innings for the Orioles. So they got a bullpen piece. They can throw multiple innings. They got a utility guy who can move around the field. Starting pitcher that can help with some depth. And they added a veteran lefty. What did they not do? Get a starting pitcher, and they desperately needed a starting pitcher, and they didn't do it. Very much in the same realm as the Boston Red Sox, and for that, we have to give them a B-. They are better. They added a lot of depth without losing a lot of big league guys. So they added to the group that was already good, and they have movable pieces. Had they added a Merrill Kelly or something, or like a Zach Gallen, or like a starter, they would have won one of the starters, or Dylan Cease. This would be an A. They just didn't do it. Which is disappointing. But I do think they are better, and they have a lot more options, a lot more depth in both sides of the ball that they didn't have before, which was kind of plan B. Then we have the Reds. Added Zach Littell, Brian Hayes, Miguel Andujar, and throughout some prospects, Zach Littell, Brian Hayes, Miguel Andujar. I don't hate it. Brian Hayes, controllable and inexpensive. Zach Littell, solid, eats innings. Not too bad. I do believe they are better than they would have been. Are they overwhelming moves? No, it's Cincinnati. But they are better. And they filled in some spots they needed to fill in with some big league, solid big leaguers. And that is a positive. That puts them in a better position to make the playoffs than they would have done before the deadline. Okay? Cardinals. They added a bunch of guys who have the last names of other great big leaguers like Baez and Molina. And Blaze Jordan ended up here. Ryan Helsley, Phil Maton, and Steven Matz went. And so the Cardinals are not as good as they were. They're slightly worse than they were before the deadline. But again, they're in fourth place. They're passing this thing off to Kyle Bloom. Mazalok is gone after this year. So this is a wait-and-see situation. It could have been much worse, but they got the value they could have without really crushing their team moving forward. They didn't get rid of Donovan. They didn't get rid of Mason Wynn or something. They still have their pieces that they believe will be part of their winning ways. Pittsburgh Pirates, they added a bunch of prospects, and they got rid of David Bednar, Brian Hayes, Bailey Falter, Caleb Ferguson, and Adam Frazier. They got something for these guys. That is not nothing, but what's the plan? What's the plan? I think what's happening right now is that I'm just really disappointed with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And that bleeds into every single thing I think about them. So, did they get better at the big league level? No. Did they get good prospects? I hope those guys all pan out and everything works out for them, but something tells me the people who make decisions over there and evaluate talent are wrong like a lot. And I hope for Pirates fans' sake that they're not wrong this time. Sorry about that. All right, finally, let's get into the NL West because this one's interesting. A lot of stuff happened over here. We got the LA Dodgers first. They added Tibbs III, Serwinski. The big ones were Ben Reutefeldt, Brock Stewart, and Alex Call. They were heavily connected to Stephen Kwan of the Guardians. That didn't happen. It's very clear that Alex Call was the second option there. And we can say, what the hell does that mean? But remember when they traded for Tommy Edman last year and then he was the NLCS MVP? That's all I'm saying. And Brock Stewart is a solid bullpen piece, a good veteran guy that I believe they can optimize. So they added their Ryan Brazier, they added their Evan Phillips. I think that's the way they see him. And Ben Reutefeldt is a quality catcher behind the plate, though Will Smith has been absolutely out of his head this year, so nothing. Kind of underwhelming, but they're expecting, all the MVPs to pick it up and the Cy Youngs to come back off the IL, which is what they're banking on. So Los Angeles Dodgers, a couple pieces. They get a little bit of a boost from that, but they're pretty much the same team. We're going to go to the Padres now. They added Mason Miller, J.P. Sears, Ryan Hurd, Roman Liriano, Nestor Cortez, Freddie Fermin, and Will Wagner. Whoa. They did have to give up Leo DeVries and then everyone else in the minors. That is probably going to be a problem in the future, though A.J. Preller's done this about 10 times now, and it has not really been a problem. So I don't know how he does it. Cue the he can't keep getting away with this meme, okay? I mean, that's an A. You had Mason Miller, who is ridiculous in front of Robert Suarez, Adrian Mortejon, Jeremiah Estrada, and Jason Adam. Like what? Those 5 relievers are, I can't explain it. And then they had Ryan O'Hearn, who's one of the better lefty sticks DHs out there, the platoon. Ramon Laureano, who is a competitor and has had a great year and is very athletic. He can run and he plays great defense. And then they already have everyone else who's on the team. So that team got way, way better. And I think JP Sears is a sneaky, like, back-end guy who just pitches every time he takes the ball. Like, in a playoff series, having a JP Sears out in the bullpen is going to be valuable. It is. And I'm excited to see what they do. And maybe I'm a little biased because I know some of those guys, and I think they deserve their flowers. So Padres get a big, fat, smelly A's. Sears just got optioned. That sucks for him. I feel bad for JP. I just got news that he got sent down. So that's sad. All right, let's get into the Giants. Buster Posey, they were a seller. They got rid of Doval, Rogers, and Yastrzemski. I believe Mike Yastrzemski and Rogers were both impending free agents. We're gonna see what they got. And they got a bunch of prospects back for him, including Jose Butto and Blade Tidwell, who I think they're looking for real impact young pitching. And a lot of the guys they brought up, Hayden Birdsong, Kyle Harrison, these guys they've had in the last few years just have not panned out. They have not got good starting pitching coming in. And I think Blade Tidwell is their big prize here. However, their team is not as good as it was before in the big league level, so they get a C-. Last couple here, Arizona Diamondbacks. Tyler Locklear, that's big league talent. Everyone else are prospects at the moment, but we'll see how that pans out. And they lost Suarez, Kelly, Naylor, Miller, Montgomery, and Grichuk. They got rid of 6 players on their team. So are they better? Do they have a chance to come back and get in this thing? They don't. They have a D. But I think they run their team well. I think they did what they need to do now, but they are no longer in it. This is a throwing in the towel situation, and the people who've thrown in the towel have D's or F's. And that's just the way it's going to be. We will revisit this in a year or two and see how these things have played out because things tend to get surprising. Guys tend to be in trades you don't think about because there were so many done, and then they become studs later, and then you remember where they came from. So I anticipate something happening in there. But for now, not better than they were. And finally, we have the Rockies. They lost Ryan McMahon, Jake Bird, and Tyler Kinley. And they got 5 guys that I hope are good. I couldn't find it in my heart of hearts to give them an F because they've been through enough. I hope it gets better. Let me know down in the comments whether or not any of these are good or bad. I apologize for some of the information being duplicates. I'm an idiot, but that happens sometimes. And I appreciate you giving me some grace. All right, thanks.